So we've been talking about franchising and people getting into some sort of opportunity, and a lot of entrepreneurs, obviously, or entrepreneur minded. They want to get into something, and they've tried some things before, and it never quite panned out. They didn't quite know how to go about it. Obviously, when you start your own thing, you've got you've got everything. You've got to figure it all by your lonesome, and you read books, and you go, I don't know if this book or that book is right, and you're trying different things that may or may not work. So some people go to a franchise. They go, well, I don't want to figure all this stuff out. I don't want to, whatever and so we have Amanda, who is on our team, who happened to also be in the franchise business. So the other day, we're talking about what we've been talking about um, here on this channel, and we've been talking to what we found is franchise consultants like what we do because they can offer us up to people who don't quite match what they're offering in their franchise consulting deal. And so anyway, so Amanda said, "Hey, why don't I come on and talk about my franchise experience?" And we thought, well, yeah, excellent idea. Why didn't we think of that? Well, it's because Amanda's a better idea person than we are.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah.
That's
So
it.
anyway, so do you want to just so I was thinking before, like, okay, well, what are some of the questions I'd want to ask? And like anything, always the best question is how'd you get into this business? So how'd you get into that business? And are you still in it? Let's
I'm
start there. Are
not.
you in it now?
I'm not in it.
Not in it.
We were
So,
there
but
for almost 5 years.
okay. So go ahead. How'd you get into it? What were you
Well,
thinking? What do you want to do?
we were in Minnesota and we wanted to move to Florida. And we were looking for a business opportunity. We didn't want to work for somebody else. We wanted to work for ourselves. And so we found this franchise opportunity that was looking to open up places in Florida. So we thought it would be an excellent fit for us. So that's what got us going. We loved the product. We loved what we thought about the company and where they were going. So that was all a good fit. But it is very expensive to.
What's the product, by the way?
So it was acai bowls, and so all
That's how
acai
you say
bowls.
that.
Acai.
Mm-hmm.
Acai.
Acai. When my
Yeah.
husband and I first started looking at this, he would say acai, or I was like, look, we
Right?
can't open a restaurant if you can't say it.
Yeah,
Well, I
So
think
it's
most
one more
people.
time.
I didn't know until you just said it. How
acai.
do you?
Right?
I thought it was a thigh. Yeah.
Yep. Acai. So,
Acai. Okay. So
I.
that's the business you got into. So nobody can pronounce it.
That's right.
Hopefully everybody wants it.
Well, in my case, not so much in Southern Florida. Nobody knew what it was.
Okay.
So probably not the best idea, but you live and you learn.
Yeah.
The
So
product
so y-
was good. It just, a lot of people still don't know about it. And so when you're coming with like an up and coming idea, you have to really have a lot of money to be able to put into it, which they didn't tell you up front when you're working with the franchise consultants and different people. It's like, okay, here's what we think it's going to take, between this amount and this amount. We spent double what we thought.
Wow.
And
well,
we
that's not
still
so
weren't
different from going
successful.
into business by yourself without
Yeah.
a franchise.
Right. Hmm. Yeah. Way different.
So how did you find that one? I mean, I know you said you liked the product, but what, how did you get there?
So it was very specific to our area. My daughters were obsessed with the
The product?
place, and so we
Oh,
would
okay.
go there all the time. And then my best friend was looking at doing a franchise within the state of Minnesota. And I looked and I was like, it's way too saturated in Minnesota. Go south because it's warm. And here
Hmm.
in Minnesota, you only have 3 months. It's a cold product, and so I still think south was the right direction. But it just would take a lot longer to get there. And there are successful people within the company, but we just didn't succeed.
Okay. And
What's sort of interesting is somebody is watching this and you hear the echoiness of where Amanda is. So the part of the story is it's like, man, we want to live in Florida where there's a much more open market there. even though it's a franchise and they tell you all the stuff to do, ended up costing twice the amount of money. And now they're moving out of it, close the stores, and we tell us more detail, but close the stores. And now her husband's back in Minnesota, and she's she's in an empty house, echoey empty house, waiting for the end of this month to go back to Minnesota.
Oh,
So
yes.
it didn't quite pan out, even though it was a franchise. So again, a lot of questions asked that. Um, so why didn't it work?
I think there's a multitude of reasons. The business we chose to go with was very new. We were the first one to open in Florida, period. And I don't think that they had a really great marketing plan that was executable. We did all the things that they said to do, but it just wasn't quite duplicatable. And I think a lot of people around the country had issues with that. They were able to sell the franchises all over the place, but then the execution of it to become profitable did not go very well for a lot of people.
So what was the execution problem? How come it? So that's interesting. So
Hmm.
because you would think of a franchise, but you'd think of a franchise that that's that's really the part people are looking for, right?
Hmm.
I would think you're probably looking for all the pieces, but like
Yeah.
how to make a business work, the
Hmm.
executable part is kind of what we're talking about, right? It's
Yep.
not accounting, and it's not you know. So what were the executables that you're talking about that they didn't
So
quite have
the
figured out?
to get people in the doors and to get the branding in a brand new location, they just were not prepared for what it would take. They weren't up on geo-targeting. There were a lot of different things that we learned after the fact with having different consultants come in. And again, from that side of it, it was an up and coming brand. We were only the 23rd franchisee to sign on. And when, like, as of right now, there's over 200. So a lot of growth in a very small period of time. But a big part of it that I feel like was missing was just that marketing strategy to where you're like, okay, here's how you get people in the door. Here's the duplicatable. They said they had a process. They said that this is what it costs to get a person in the door and all of the things, but it because they had only been in Minnesota and it took off differently in Minnesota than it has in other states. And especially in Florida, they just, in our area and others, because I know Fort Lauderdale and some of the other ones are having the same struggles, but people don't know what it is. So they're like, they come in and they're this, well, I can't really say the specific business, but so I can't, okay. Uh, the name has a nautical theme. And so
Yeah.
in Florida, people think fish when you see
Mhm.
a nautical symbol. And so people would come in for like poke bowls and different things. And they're like, wait, what? You only have what are they? And they didn't even know. And when you're looking for a fish bowl, a fresh fish bowl, they're like, we'll come here for dessert. I was like, oh, it's not dessert.
Interesting.
Um, so again, from a franchise consulting perspective, I do believe that everybody meant well, right? But they're all just learning and growing. And so the other side of that is if you were to go with a Starbucks, you're going to invest, $2 million into getting a place, whereas they had told me it'd be 150 to 250K per location. So, right, a lot more affordable entry point for somebody. Uh, but you expect that the marketing and that will be there to help you to be successful.
So when you're thinking about when you're getting into that and
Yeah.
thinking, where did you want it to go? What do you want to do with it? Where did you want to go with it?
Well, it was really sold as kind of an absentee business where you could have, you get it up and running, you get the build out going, and then you hire managers. And really, it's an absentee business. So passive income is what we are interested in. And so, yes, I knew there would be some upfront work, but I didn't, based on the projections that we thought would come, I didn't anticipate having to be in the store working every single day of the week, doing markets, doing all of these different things. It was really supposed to be an absentee business. And so we had hoped to open hundreds of locations, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
I was like, let's do this. I want to go to other countries with this,
Ah,
Interesting. So
which they
you're big
did,
at, they
but not
did?
us.
Oh,
Yeah,
not
there
you.
is. Yeah.
Okay. So you think product awareness was the biggest hurdle?
Yeah, product awareness. And then they really, I talked with several other like acai bowl competitors, if you will, as I was kind of getting out of things. I mean, you do talk with them while you're in it, but you're generally competitors. So nobody's
right.
really,
Right.
trying to divulge. But one of our locations we sold to another acai bowl place. And I was like, what are you doing? Like his bowls were horrible compared to ours. Like, I'm not kidding. And I feel bad saying it, but it's like the honest to God truth. But he had honed in and he was selling 1,000 bowls a day. I mean, that's crazy. And
Mhm.
so I'm like, what did you do? I don't get it. And he did all geo targeting advertising and some very specific, like he honed in a specific area and made sure that like really every single person knew who they were. And I think that plan was missing in the way that they did it for like targeting. Like we did ads and all the stuff, but it didn't target the right people.
So how did they do it? Just out of I've and I'm not we don't geo target, and so
Hmm.
we go about things in a totally different minded sort of way. We're not
Right.
retail. We don't really care who's local. We
Because you can
go
do it
about
from
it a little bit
wherever.
differently.
Hmm.
So how did this competitor do it who was successful versus how you did it?
Well, I only have limited information because he didn't give me a ton, but he
Yeah.
worked with an agency that obviously, because we still had two other locations open at this point in time. But anyhow, he used a specific agency, which I don't know what it was, but they really looked at honing in on the people who went to these specific places because we knew the data of who bought these bowls, right? But they don't know we're there. Nobody, I mean, we would just get people in all the time, which is great when they say, oh, I've never been here before. And then they come back. But you need to get that steady flow of people coming. And so they used a specific net with a specific company. And I don't know how they did it, but he killed it. And I think that if you have that right formula, which is what I love about FFUSA, because you are given that formula, you are given the steps, you are like, okay, here's what you can do differently than everybody else. And so that's what I appreciate about what we're doing now.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you brought up passive income, which is interesting because well, and so when you look at how we do passive income, all right? How we look at passive because it truly is very passive, where something that's when you have to sell more stuff to make more money isn't really passive. Re it's recurring sales, but it's
right.
not selling once and every time they it's just a
Eat a
different
bowl, you
product.
still,
Yeah, yeah. You have to come back and eat a bowl.
hmm
They have to come in to you. You have to buy the
hmm
bowl, serve the stuff. You got to have people and overhead and all the things,
got the
as
cost
opposed
of
to hooking them
goods.
up into
Hmm.
something that's a subscription sort of thing, or even better. Not only a subscription, but every time they use it, they pay a little bit more, and you make a little bit more. And
Yep.
they want to use as much as absolutely possible because every time they use it, they make money.
Yep.
Totally different. Totally different. So what about passive income? So tell me what you learned about passive income.
Well, that is a huge piece of it. Like you said, where I thought of passive income because I'd have managers running stores and doing these different things, it isn't really truly passive. And when you look at cost of goods, especially in the restaurant industry, like because of when we opened and COVID and all of the things, prices doubled on just buying stuff. So then if you are really having somebody else run your shop and you are out of it, you just took 40% of your margin because you can't raise the price anymore because it's already top tier, right? So then that little bit of income you could have made of the people coming in, if they came in, is gone. And so, my husband and I work with FFUSA and I work on the corporate side, but he actually is a sales partner. And that's when we learned more about truly passive income, where you do work with people and bring them on and then help them to be successful. And then you generate an income repetitively, not like by having to do something every single day with that person. So that's actually passive income. So that was a
Yeah.
huge change. Mhm.
So where did, just out of curiosity, so when you think about, oh, okay, I see how this works versus, imagine if you put the time, energy, and effort that what you did into the acai bowl,
Oh, yeah.
into
Good job.
this, wh- where do you and how many years? How many years
We
did you do the
were
bowls?
almost 5 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
You said
Right.
something earlier. Let me circle back around on this because I don't think a lot of people think about this as they're looking at different franchise opportunities out there. You said that you were told it would cost between 150 to 250, but in
Yep.
actuality, it costs twice that.
Mm-hmm.
So, what when you say in actuality it cost, what were the things that drove that expense up? So, I mean, double your expense from what you were
Mm-hmm.
initially told.
So
What
ours
was that?
was, yeah, ours was a lot of build out. Again, we kind of signed and did all of these things, and there was a lot of variables from COVID, and then Hurricane Ian hit, which then getting supplies and everything, all of that stuff. We were 1 week away from opening when Ian hit, and
Hmm.
right in our, I mean, like right there, we're in Fort Myers, so you couldn't
Wow.
have picked a worse time place if you tried. So there was a lot of factors in that. But even before the hurricane, costs of like just build outs went up through the roof. And we built out one, we were in the process basically because we had partnered on a couple other locations. So within leasing, everything takes a long time, right? So you
Right.
sign on it, they start build out, you do all this stuff, you got all this money going out all over the place.
Hmm.
And then they're like, oh, well, for this lumber, it's going to cost 3 times this. For this, it's going to cost 1.5. And then when we got to the product, literally everything organic had almost doubled in prices. So the acai and the different flavors we had almost triple for a tub. But the price, we couldn't charge. So by the time you're opening the store, what you thought was going to be a, 40% profit margin after everything was done, you're really at 20 if things are going well.
Right.
And that means though that, I mean, rent in Fort Myers and in Naples and those areas is astronomical. And so
Hmm.
we had a huge nut as it was, a whole lot of bowls to sell just to meet it, which was in line with what they were projecting, but we never got near it. So
Interesting.
yeah,
So real
because we
estate
were,
obviously is a big expense and build
yeah,
out and floating three different leases, building out three different
exactly.
locations. And then not to mention, I would imagine, a lot of things I hear about franchise owners is that one of the big things they struggle with
Jeez.
is employees,
Hmm.
finding the employee. So what happened when an employee didn't show up and they
Right.
were supposed
You
to
have to
open
go
on a
in if you
Saturday
don't have
morning?
somebody. Exactly.
Right. You got to
Yep.
go in and you're serving bowls all day, so
Yep.
that's certainly it's hard to rely sometimes, and
And
it can be expensive.
especially, yeah, especially when you have a thin margin, right? Because you can't even back up staff people because it's
Right.
like, well, there's only this amount of profit. If we're only going to sell 100 bowls today, then this is all I can do. So if somebody calls in, then you're like,
Right.
really, you have to go
Oh
in.
shoot. Yeah, I got to
So,
go in. With three stores and
mhm,
two people, it could be difficult, I'd
mhm.
imagine.
Yeah, it was a
And let
lot.
me that
It was a lot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It
that
was a lot.
You've got to be two places at once sometimes. Did
right.
you ever have a
Yeah.
situation where more than one person didn't show up at a time, like at
You
different
know what?
locations?
One thing I'll say that was crazy about it, and thank God, but like we really didn't. I had really great employees, and
That's
had we
good.
had more sales, we actually, from that perspective, did really well. We had an amazing crew at
Okay.
really all three locations. And I was very surprised. Like, I don't know how I would hear horror stories from other stores. So that was actually one of the things
Hmm.
that we didn't struggle with. But
That's good.
yeah.
It's interesting that what we talk about is, in the difference between how we go about it and the typical retail business. I mean, we don't. we get to spend almost all of our time adding passive income.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's where 90%, 95% of all of our time, energy, and effort says, all right, how do we get more passive income? You know,
Yeah.
there's almost no overhead. There's no employees. We
Yeah.
don't pay for advertising. You know, all
Yeah.
those things that everybody just really struggles with uh, before you ever make any money, and as you're trying to make money, we almost have none of that, and all the time, energy, and effort goes into building more. So you know, and it's interesting too. It's kind of like an insurance agency where it's different. It's your day one is going to be different than what you're in it for 5 years
Yeah.
than 5 years later. You know, if you're going after this like crazy and you're stacking on a lot of business for 5 years, 5 years later, instead of going, all right, how do I either get out of this, or I've got to get into something different, or what I want to sell it. You have choices. You know,
Yeah.
you might have enough money to work one day a week from
Right.
anywhere in the world. You know, you give it a lot of
I love
flexibility.
that.
It's interesting in a lot of retail, especially, is that's it's sort of like an anchor.
Yeah.
And how we go about it too is not only do you spend all your time uh, adding to your passive income, but you can also do it from most anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Our market is in the United States. We're regulated by U.S. banking. This is where our clients need to be. But there are 300 million people in this country, and it's
Yeah.
a very capitalistic market, and it's set up for what we do to win to
Mhm.
win really well. And you don't have to be here to do it. We go,
Yes,
look,
that's what I love.
set this up in a way that use the phone. Use the phone.
Yep.
You don't have to run across town. You have no product. The
Yep.
product is changing plastic to
Over for.
cash.
Right.
Yep.
Whatever your cost is, that's our and if those costs go up, it's already built in. It passes through to the merchant.
Yeah.
So your focus is more and more and more, and of course servicing. But most people they don't need more bananas. They don't need you
Right.
don't have to go back and sell them any more stuff. You want to keep in contact, making sure everything is okay, and they don't forget about you and go with somebody else who's prettier and walks in. you
You
know,
got to keep the
uh,
relationship.
right? Got
That's
to
for
keep the
sure.
relationship,
Right.
Mhm. But
but you don't have to. There's not much of
yeah.
that. Time goes
Yeah.
really fast. And so if you touch base on their birthday, call them, hey,
Yep.
happy birthday, how's it going? Just want to is
Yeah.
everything cool? Anything, yeah, blah, blah, blah. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Some people like to touch base more frequently, 6 months, 3 months. But you do what makes sense. They don't want you calling all the time because they don't
No.
Right.
need you.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
And that's the good news.
they're trying to do more business so you
Mhm.
can make more money. Kind of
Mhm.
deal, which is a nice way to kind of a nice way. Imagine if everybody was motivated to eat more acai bowls. Then you'd be in the right spot. Man, I got to eat it 16 times a day. I just got to have more. But or any retail product, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta have more whatever shipping. I don't
Yeah.
And,
know.
and I'm just curious. So, like in that situation, how many did you need to sell a day or a month or what? What was kind of like your break even? What that look
Well,
like?
just to cover our nut at each location, we had to make $40,000 a month. Just to that was the bare minimum just to pay for things.
Right.
Like the utilities, the bills, the employees.
Sure.
And we were told we would make $100,000 a month. However, most
No wonder you got
months,
three.
Yeah.
right.
Right.
And people were doing it, but again, there's so much I've learned in hindsight 2020, right? You're just like, oh, but yeah, so I got three because
But you're
why
gonna make
wouldn't it
two
do
million a
Why
great?
year. You're
wouldn't
gonna
you?
live in
Right.
Florida, make 2 million a year, and
Right.
yeah,
Passive, hardly
Love
yeah,
dealing with
acai.
it.
passive. Somebody else is gonna
Yeah.
run it. You're off to into the next country. You're off to the south of France, setting
Right.
them up all along. You know,
The
Mhm.
you're
acai
taking
queen
French
of
So,
Florida.
lessons. Already.
Right.
but so each bowl is $13, right? So just do the math on that. 40 just to break
Right.
even, you got 40,000 divided by 13. I used to know these numbers like this. I don't
Yeah.
know them anymore. I've kind of blocked a little bit of that pain
Well,
out.
it's about 30
It's a lot of bowls.
3,000 of them, isn't it?
It's a lot of bowls.
3,000. So it's
3,077.
1,000 a day. 1,000 bowls a day, or
Well, not
100
a
bowls
day.
a day.
100.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100 bowls a day.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, 150. And
Man,
we would go
that's
to markets and we could do really well sometimes at markets, but then I mean, it's a lot of setup going to markets, and because we would do that for advertising to hopefully get people into the brick and mortars, right? But
mhm.
what we found is it was mostly tourists that were out at the festivals, and then it didn't bring us any business into the brick and mortar.
Right.
So
They're going, hey,
then
we got these up in Minnesota. I'm going to go
yeah.
grab one of these. These are great.
Really, they did all the time.
Right.
I was like, okay, well,
Oh,
come
that's
to our
funny.
store. And they're like, oh, we leave
Right.
tomorrow. I'm like,
Right.
great.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, when you
So,
live in a place where everybody vacations, it's a different. They're
But
they're transient. They're not here next
they
week.
they are a lot of them, and there is long-term residents, but they were the hard part that again, when they looked at demographics and different things, younger people really like acai bowls. People over, 60, they don't really know what it is. They don't know why they want to eat it. Why are they going to spend $13 on it? That seems crazy. And so that in Naples, most people are over 60. So like,
mm,
problem.
mm.
And there's no
So
kids with.
and there's no kids. I would hear this all the time. Oh, when my grandkids come, I'll bring
Yeah.
them for dessert. I'm like,
Mhm.
it's still not dessert, honey.
Right.
But thank you.
Right.
Bring
Mm.
it. Bring them, please. Oh,
Interesting.
yes. So things I don't miss. That.
Yeah,
Um,
it's too bad that you couldn't test it. Like,
yeah.
because you had to put however many, couple $100,000 into it and
Down.
hope that it worked right. And then you're
And we
then
were
then you're
exactly
working to make that investment not go away, right? Not
right.
lose it. So it's
Right.
all right, I really want to make the money. I don't want to lose it. Yeah.
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 So we
Yeah.
did a lot of that. And again, I know that there are bowl places out there doing it. So I'm not saying that it's not possible. We just did
Right.
not have success with it. And you think, oh, this is what we're going to do. There wasn't like I thought worst case scenario would be like 70K a month. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I can deal with
Mhm.
that. 3 locations,
Yeah,
no.
he's still making a million.
Right.
Mhm.
And like, okay. But no, never had I ever even considered the
Mhm.
other side of it
Right.
until
So
I was in
going
it.
if you were to go, let's say go back in time, knowing
Mm.
what would you have asked differently? How would you have asked about it differently, looked at it differently,
Hmm.
operated differently? Would you do it? All those things.
I wouldn't have done it. I definitely wouldn't have done the 3 locations. I would have gone. So we did come down here and like look at, and we talked with different people again that said, oh, yeah, the market's great. This will be perfect. But people just tell you what you want to hear, right? They want to lease you this space. You would think they would care that you're successful, but ultimately they're going to get their money because that's how it
Right.
works. And so I would have, especially from a restaurant perspective, I wish we would have had the option to set up like we did those festivals. If I could have gone to different areas and done a few festivals, because there were areas like Fort Myers where the younger crowd was, we could do $3,000 in 4 hours at a market. Like every week we would go, we would hit
Mhm.
it. It would be crazy. But the same exact time, same exact in beautiful Naples, I'd beg to give people a try. Like we couldn't sell. I'd be like, it's like, come take these cute little mini bowls, take a bite, and they're like, no. I'd be like, I don't want dessert. I mean, they couldn't get over the fact. I'm like, it's not dessert. Just, or this was the 2 things I heard. I eat only healthy. This is like dessert. It's got too many calories. Or the exact opposite. I don't eat anything healthy. I'm 80 years old. I'm going to die soon. And I only eat things that taste good. And I'm like, it tastes delicious. Put it in your mouth. Like, just do
Yeah.
it.
That, and I think all businesses are like that in some degree, right? Or like
Yeah.
if you do what we do like in the credit card processing business, if you do how most people train you to do it, you walk up and down,
Okay.
you go to store, you either
Yeah, it's not gonna.
telemarket or go
Hmm.
direct to the, they want. What's that sign that I saw one time? We shoot every fourth salesman, the third one just left.
Yeah.
That's the attitude. They do not want to
Yeah.
hear from you. They don't want you to call. And so you
Yep.
go, all right, how would you, how do you get people to call you and go, hey, get recommended? How do you get somebody
Hmm.
to call you and say, your phone rings, you go, oh, how'd you hear about me? Oh, so and so, he said you do this, and you go, oh, they've already got trust, they know what you do, they
Yep.
want you. They want what you have, and so that's. So we thought, all right, how do you figure out a system like that? And
Yeah.
that's eventually we figured out how to do that. You don't figure it out overnight, and
Mhm.
um, and that's what we do. And so from anywhere you can make those. You can have earbuds and a cell phone,
Yep.
and
Yep.
start making connections and get that to happen, and
Yeah.
and then you can take these calls from where you are, where
Yep.
you are, where I am, any of those places or any other place in the world where you have a phone line from the moon. If that's a good enough
Yeah.
Mhm.
connection. We see we can go there, so that's good. And Musk said you can go to Mars, but I don't know how the
Just
phone connection is there
come
quite yet.
on.
So I'm going to stay right here
Yeah.
until the Mars thing gets all lit up.
I think
But
I'm good on the whole
yeah,
Mars.
and also we guarantee that it works.
Yeah.
It's back
Right.
to your, like, man, for any franchise, you've got to put up some cash.
Serious
Doesn't matter
money.
if you're selling,
Hmm.
if you've got a truck to do
Mhm.
Yep.
carpet cleaning or whatever it is, or
Yep.
an
I
acai bowl,
say,
yeah,
you
iced
got it.
tea bowl, or a Starbucks or McDonald's or what. There's a lot of money that goes into it,
Right.
and then you go, oh, this is how it works, but then it's too late. you
It
know,
is.
now it's like,
Yep.
okay, and like you did, you got out, you sold one to somebody else, and
Yep.
so maybe there's that opportunity, these other things. Did you make money selling that location?
No,
No, you
it
don't
was
make money selling
basically
a location because they know
no,
they don't
because they
have to pay
took,
you a premium, right? Unless it's a
yeah,
premium spot,
yeah. Really, it
that
was taken over the lease. That's really what you get
right,
out of it. It's
yeah,
just like, okay, this is less money that I gotta fork out to somebody else to get out of this
Right.
situation.
Right.
But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, he was just taking it over because,
You want
you
it
know,
out. You
yeah.
want it out. That's
And
how
it
it
was a good
goes.
space that was set up for it.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
So,
yeah. The restaurant outfitting is not, well, I guess you know that, but it's not cheap.
no.
Mhm.
And the inspections,
And
because you
ours
have,
was a simple, but yeah, inspections and everything. I mean, everything costs money, and you're at their mercy
yeah,
on
yeah, we'll be there
everything.
in 6 weeks to make sure the sink is
Well,
installed properly.
that's what happened with with Hurricane Ian, is we were scheduled to open, pretty much everything was ready. Well, then obviously so many places were destroyed. And
Right.
so the priority, and rightfully so, needed to go to getting the people open that had restaurants. So that meant any new business, it was like, yeah, you're way at the end, way at the
Right.
end. And they were like, and our landlord's like, oh, well, you're done with build out, so you have to start paying the 12 grand a month.
Right.
Awesome. I'm not
Right.
even open. So, and that was
And
almost 2 months.
wow,
So,
that's
yeah.
a
Oh,
big nut right there.
Yeah.
24 grand.
Yeah,
well,
And let
that's
me
without
ask,
retail,
having
right?
to sell.
It
Hmm.
yeah,
almost
that's
doesn't
retail for
matter
you, right?
where, because it costs that much because that's what it costs there. If you're in some
Hmm.
small town, small town in Iowa where there's nobody that's going to buy it anyway because they don't have $12.
Right.
It's going to be a $300 a month restaurant
Right.
at least, but
But at
you're
least it's a
still not going to
lot.
cover it. know, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
And but you mentioned earlier, like, yeah, we brought in consultants. And so you were obviously dealing with people trying to figure this out, right? So,
Right. Right.
so were these consultants that you went out and found? Were these consultants that came from the franchise, or
It was
how
from
did
the
that work?
franchise. Yeah, so
Okay.
from the franchisor, they provided, like, they were trying to figure it out as they opened, as more locations opened in other states and didn't see the success that they saw in Minnesota. And even Minnesota stores started not doing as well because, again, oversaturation, which is what I
Yeah.
felt was going to happen there. But then they started bringing in consultants and having people look, but it was behind the eight ball. It was definitely
Right.
behind the eight ball, and they were trying to figure it out versus they didn't have the person who knew.
So would
And so
you say
then, but
that,
we spent money, you have to, so they're like, you guys have to spend $5,000 a month on this advertising, and here's what
right,
you're going to do. You have to do this. Like, because
right,
they're the franchisor, and if you want to be successful, you have to follow their game plan. And so we did all of that.
right.
And again, if it had worked, then it would have been great, but it didn't. So then it
did
was
you
just
have to,
money out the window.
did you have to pay more for the consultant to show up, or did they, so you had to pay for that? So you didn't get ongoing, you couldn't just pick up the phone anytime and talk to someone who's done this and
No.
built successful offices and talk to
I
them?
mean, we did talk within, like, we had our team meetings with other franchisees and the owners, the founders, and that. And like I said, the consultants were there to call and to tell you, like, oh, do these ads, do this. And then we would do those things, but they just wouldn't generate the people that they were supposed to. So then it was just more money going out the door.
Wow, to charge for consulting after you
Yeah.
buy the franchise.
Yeah.
To
I
give you
don't know.
faulty advice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Let-
That doesn't
it
even be
sounds
like
like you're paying for them
thousands.
to figure it out. It's
Yeah,
like,
oh, yeah,
no,
we
you
did
should
100%.
Right, yeah.
help me figure it out. Don't pay.
Plus, you
don't
have
make me pay
royalties
for
that
you
you're
to figure
paying
out.
on everything,
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
again, that's what I love about FFUSA. It's like you're in this business, but we have a whole support team that, me as the owner of this, like doing this, I don't have to pay for the support team here. I
Right.
have all the tools that I need. I have the ability to go out and talk to whomever I want in the whole,
Mhm.
country per se. I can
Right.
do it from anywhere in the world without the overhead. So I wish I would have known about it 5 years ago. I wish I would have understood. Like, everybody thinks, like, opening a restaurant, that's amazing. Like, no,
You know,
it's a lot.
it's a lot of work, and it's interesting you brought that up because I've heard on more than one occasion. I have friends that are in other businesses similar.
Mhm.
They may own a restaurant or a transmission shop or whatever, and then
Yeah.
they look and they go, "How come you don't have 80 locations out there? How are you doing this? What makes sense?" And my response has always been, "You build that, but what we build, you can put in a file cabinet. You
Yep.
don't need 12 grand a month real estate. I don't need to
Exactly.
build out for $89,000 on
Yep.
top of that. You don't need all that stuff. So therefore, every time you add a client, you are entering positive cash flow territory because
Yep.
it doesn't take that many clients to cover. I would imagine that's been your experience. You go, look,
Yeah.
relative to what you've invested monetarily into First Financial,
Oh,
your return must be astronomical compared to what you
Huge.
experienced over there.
and guess what happened when I closed my doors at Nautical Bowls? I didn't get any more money. Not that I was making money anyways.
Right.
I didn't keep getting a paycheck. I didn't keep
Right.
getting money coming in. It was over. The only thing I was left with was debt. Lots
Yeah.
of debt.
Yeah.
And here, my husband, he's been bringing on people and doing these things, and every month there's more
It
money
increases.
coming in. And he's
Right.
not doing it full time, but he is, we meet people, we go out to eat, we meet
Mm-hmm.
somebody there, we go out and we had to get our tires done. So the tire guy was like, I want to save money. I mean, who doesn't want to save money?
Right.
I know me. So one of the reasons why I loved FFUSA is because as a former restaurant owner, the fees for some of these things are just so crazy. And I love that, at least like we are, you guys are, the people who are really excited about this want to help people do business better, right? Not just like, oh yeah, we save people money. We do, but we give back. We care. You get a real person on the line, which is unheard of. And of course, I work for the corporate side, but my husband, like when a merchant calls in, they get me on the phone or they get one of my teammates on the phone. He didn't have to pay for that. My husband didn't have to pay for the support staff. FFUSA does. And so it's like we have no overhead, period. It's like, okay.
No overhead, and all you do is build more income.
Right.
Exactly. And the more we do, it's just residual. It isn't the one time, which is what blew my mind was like, oh, okay, wait, you don't just get paid one time. Like when I sign somebody and they're a merchant now, oh, I get it for as long as they're a merchant and I'm active. Okay, cool. So yeah.
Nice.
Anyways, I wish more people knew about it. I wish more people understood what it takes to open a business and that there are so many options. And I think, obviously, I'm biased, but I think FFUSA is amazing. I think that all the tools are there, and I think that it's an easy way if you work it, if you are out there and building relationships and truly caring about helping other people, you know, which if you're starting any business, you got to do.
Yeah.
Right.
How many hours a week did you work doing the bowls?
I mean, seriously, like 80, because we were
Yeah.
open, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day of the week. And we had markets, we had prep, we had between the three stores, I was 8 to 8 easy. Plus, then we didn't have anybody to do payroll. I did it all. So,
Wow.
So
Right.
80 hours a week plus administrative stuff.
mhm.
So, and you did that for like 5 years?
Yeah, I mean,
4 years?
from build out, from sign,
Yeah.
whatnot, but yeah. Mhm.
Right.
So what, just, I know you don't know, but if you were just to take a swing at it, what do you think, and your husband is doing it. Well, let's say if you're both doing it, you're doing this
Mhm.
together, like you're doing the bowl thing.
Yeah.
What, how much passive income do
Oh.
you think you could have with us right now, given the time, given that you know what
Mhm.
it takes to win in what it is
Yeah.
we do? How much passive income do you think you guys could be generating right now?
I mean, it would be huge. I mean, we would definitely be doing six figures if we had invested and then a monthly residual income because you keep compounding every new person you meet, every new merchant that comes on. And I think about all of the people that we met and all those relationships we built for bowls. And it's different, but it's the same thing. If we had spent that time and just said, yes, I'm going to commit the next 5 years to growing something huge with this, with no overhead, with a support team, with the staff that I can grow as big as I want. All I have to do is build relationships and help people like remotely at that. I don't know. It's a no-brainer. So I'm grateful
Well,
that I found it. And I'm still learning more and more every day and growing. And so,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, glad you're here. We're
I'm glad to be here.
I don't want to say I'm glad your bowl thing melted, but
Right. Melted.
but we're glad you're here.
Right.
We're glad you're here
I'm glad
now.
to be here though. And I'm still building freedom. That's the biggest
Right.
thing. That's really what I wanted, but that wasn't freedom. That wasn't true freedom. I still, even if it had been successful, I still would have been locked to it, locked to customers coming in the door, locked to those things. And of course, it would have been more palatable because I was making money.
Right.
But
Right.
what I'm building now, is something that can be passed on and can really build something strong for my entire family.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Well, and
from
I think
anywhere.
there's very few things that are really truly passive, and I mean it's passive enough.
Yes.
And even
Yeah.
that, you'd have to make a lot of money to devote that kind of time, I would think. You're
Mhm.
spending 80 hours a week, your husband's spending 80 hours a week. I
Mhm.
mean that doesn't sound like an exciting time. I mean,
No.
I don't even care if you were making a 100 million a year doing that 80. What else? There's nothing left to
Yeah.
do the things that matter. I
Right.
mean, making money's great. That's awesome. But yeah,
If you
I got to
can't
go open the
enjoy it.
store. Can't enjoy
Yep.
it. I can't do anything. I can't go to the kids' soccer match. I can't,
Yep.
go on vacation because I got to be here. I can't go
And
anywhere.
you
That doesn't
couldn't
sound very free.
plan. That's exactly it. You couldn't
Right.
plan because, like you said on call-ins, guess when people call in? Saturdays, Sundays.
Right.
Like we'd have plans,
Mhm.
and then I'm not going to be
Guess
able
you're
to
working.
go because
Yeah.
I'm not
Guess
going
you're
to not
working.
open my restaurant.
Right.
So yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I like that this is true freedom. If you work it and you invest the time and you learn and you grow, it's definitely possible.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well said. Good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope my pain, my painful story helps somebody else maybe save themselves a few $100,000.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, that's got to feel pretty good if you can do that for
Yeah.
somebody. Because
Yeah.
somebody's out there
We'll
ready
be
to
good.
pull the trigger, and they're going to hear you, and they're going to go, "There ain't no way I'm
Eh.
doing this. Hell no,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good.
Definitely check out FFUSA before you do anything else.
Yeah. Well,
Perfect.
yeah. Well, and you know what's interesting too? A lot of people who do really well with us have been through a similar situation that you've been in.
Yep.
Yeah,
You know, they have now all this experience because talking to somebody who doesn't have your experience, they don't have your experience. They don't
Right.
know
To
all
know.
the little subtleties about what you just said, and because at every point you made it, you could go into it much deeper.
Yeah.
right.
Here's this, that, and the other point about when somebody calls in and they're not going to show up. Okay, not only can I not plan my weekends, but
Yep.
a thousand other
It's
things come
done.
into play, right? You know, here's
Right.
a story of I was going to take my daughter over here, but you know,
Yep.
we ended up going to the restaurant, and then what do I do with her? And she wants
Mhm.
to go over there, and it's like I don't want you to go over there, and I've got to go to the. You know, there's a million stories, right? And it affects
Exactly.
life. And I
Yep.
thought Chuck's point was interesting too. Even if you're making so much money, you know,
Mhm.
you still can't get away from the darn thing. You
Nope.
can't. You still have to go and
Yep.
open it up and yeah and until and even if you have somebody running it, you know, and that let's say you have 3 locations and okay, so there's enough, you're making enough money, you hire a general manager. Well, then the
Yep.
general manager, you know, who knows? Now you get them a company car and they hit somebody in the street, you know, and you go, oh
Mhm.
my God. You know,
Mhm.
You
and
still have
and you're
all the
liable
overhead,
because you're
all
making
the
2 million a
everything.
year. You know, it's like, oh my gosh,
Exactly.
how can I, you know, how can I have fewer moving parts, right?
So
I
true.
want I want the good stuff, and I want to shed the load of the bad stuff,
Right.
all the things
Yep.
that could be bad. I don't want to think. I don't want to have to deal with that. What can I
Yep.
do? What can I do that makes you know the money that and I can make money and increase my time off at the same time and
Right.
doing something that I go, okay, it's a challenge. You know,
Right.
everything is, and this is a
Hmm.
challenge that I want to run. You know, where's that? Where do those things overlap? You know, that tiny little space, and I think that's what we, you know, for the right people. You know,
Yeah.
if you have the right potential, like you'd said, if you're contacting people and have the wherewithal to have conversations, you know, and they make sense, why let's put it into something where I can make you know ever increasing money
Mhm.
and it also unlock ever increasing time. You know, so I
Yep.
have all the choices. So you know you don't get those things like oh yeah they didn't show up. You know,
Yes.
like you said, somebody you know. First Financial is going to take the calls. You know, we
Yep.
have to
Right.
figure out, you know,
Right.
what happens if
Mhm.
our people don't show up. But
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
But it's nice
yeah,
because we don't ever have to worry about it. From a business owner perspective, all of that is taken care of.
yeah. You
And
get to
so then
focus
your
on what
people,
matters, what builds, what gets you freedom, gets you,
yep,
like you said, the true freedom, not just pretend.
Mhm.
Uh,
yep,
yeah,
I
yeah.
love
Well,
it.
good. Well, I appreciate
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
Thanks for
relating
sharing your story
your
because
Well, thanks
experience.
for letting me come on. And
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
I'm happy to be here. And I love working with you guys and working with
Well,
all the
likewise.
sales partners too. It's so much
We'll
fun.
send
Yeah.
you a consulting bill, or it
Right.
could be therapy. I'm not sure if we're doing
Right.
Therapy.
consulting or
Right.
therapy.
Yeah, it's a therapy session for
Yeah.
sure. You guys
Good.
have
Good,
Well,
because
just reminded
therapists, I
me.
think, make a lot of money. Chuck, you know, you look like you're worth at least 2,000 an hour,
oh yeah,
and
at least
we've been
yeah.
on for an hour, so you'll be
That's
getting
right. I'll send you
you'll
my bill.
Add it
Don't
to
worry
my
about it.
tab.
Of course, she doesn't forward her mail from to Minnesota now, so
right.
I'll never
Well,
see anything.
this is a good way to get out of that acai bowl obligations. Like
Acai,
we're just leaving.
acai.
We're just leaving. We're going to
Right.
Minnesota. You go to Minnesota, no, yeah, it's
It's
easy. Yeah.
everywhere.
Anyway,
I
we don't need
know.
to cross into politics there.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Well,
Excellent.
thank
Okay,
you.
well, love
Thank
you
you,
guys.
All
Amanda.
Thank
right.
you guys for being on
Appreciate
and
you.
have a
All
great
right.
day.
See you
All
soon.
right. You
Bye.
All
too.
right.
See
Bye.
ya.